Pulled from an icy river between life and death, Han Li awakens on an unfamiliar boat, unaware that this quiet rescue will soon entangle him with hidden cultivators' unspoken intentions and the deeper currents of the great Jin cultivation world. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Han Li narrowed his eyes and began circulating the first layer of the Heaven Void Cauldron's artifact imprint technique. A thunderous dragon's roar burst forth from within the cauldron. Its lid shot skyward in a streak of azure light, revealing a radiant prismatic glow shimmering inside. The vast sea of blue light the Saintess had used to freeze Han Li's movements was swiftly drawn in, swallowed whole by the Heaven Void Cauldron. Both sides were struck dumb by the sight. The Saintess's massive holy cauldron let out an eerie hum, then abruptly plunged downward in a beam of light. Her face drained of all color. She hastily formed a hand seal, frantically commanding the cauldron to halt, but her orders fell on deaf ears. In the blink of an eye, the holy cauldron vanished, devoured by the Heaven Void Cauldron below. Alarm flared violently in the Saintess's heart, yet the nightmare had only begun. The Heaven Void Cauldron suddenly tore free from Han Li's grasp, spinning wildly in mid-air before angling its mouth toward the white mist at the side. As a faint glow spread across its surface, a terrified roar erupted from within the mist. A massive black silhouette shot into the sky. It was the endless sky beast, a flood dragon with the head of a bull. An alluring azure mist burst forth from the Heaven Void Cauldron, chasing after the beast at an astonishing speed and instantly wrapping around it. The endless sky beast let out frantic howls, thrashing with all its might, yet the blue mist remained utterly unshaken, as though immune to its struggle. The mist tightened, shrinking rapidly along with the beast before streaking back into the cauldron. At once the lid spun through the air and slammed shut with a deafening clang, sealing everything within. The entire sequence unfolded in the time it took to draw a single breath. The Saintess stood frozen, her face deathly pale, disbelief written plainly across her features. Moments ago, victory had been firmly within her grasp. So how had she plunged so suddenly into the abyss of defeat? Not only had Han Li escaped her cocoon of sand, but he had seized both the holy cauldron and the incarnation of the holy beast itself. Yet she was no ordinary woman. Even in shock, she forced herself to remain composed. Her gaze slowly dropped to the Heaven Void Cauldron, now resting in Han Li's hand. She understood perfectly well that the sudden reversal of the battle stemmed from that cauldron. The loss of control over her holy cauldron must have been caused by some profound connection between the two, otherwise such a catastrophe would have been impossible. She had to obtain that cauldron. In a single instant, the Saintess made her decision. Han Li, meanwhile, was inwardly delighted by this unexpected turn of events. When the woman's icy gaze swept past him, a faint smile tugged at his lips. He knew exactly what she was thinking. With a powerful beat of his wings, his figure dissolved into a flash of silver lightning, reappearing 100 meters away. Without the slightest hesitation, he recalled his condensed flying swords. His fingers blurred as they formed a series of arcane hand seals. Azure light surged around his body as terrifying spiritual chi erupted forth. Han Li then opened his mouth and spat several mouthfuls of blood essence into the air. The droplets transformed into fine strands of blood mist, which quickly shifted into a strange azure crimson hue. His complexion deepened from dark red to blood crimson, and his figure grew indistinct, swallowed by the churning mist. Not good. The Saintess cried out in alarm as realization struck her. She raised her hand and fired 2 beams of silver light, which split mid-air into countless silver threads that rushed toward Han Li. But by the time the massive sword returned to his side, His silhouette within the crimson mist had already blurred beyond recognition. In the next heartbeat, a streak of crimson light flared briefly at the horizon, then vanished. The saintess's heart sank. She immediately released her spiritual sense, yet Han Li had already fled beyond its reach, using blood shadow evasion. She remained hovering in place, her complexion ashen and unmoving. At the same moment, more than 500 kilometers away, the elegant man gazed down at the boundless plains below. A strange expression flickering across his face. 9 dark green wheels hummed softly as they revolved around him. "Wood movement techniques," he murmured. Even after suffering injuries of that magnitude, it still had the strength to use vegetation to conceal itself. And that devil artifact, powerful yet troublesome. Using it risks severe backlash. Still, it has no hope of survival. It was merely a nascent soul. With wounds that heavy, its body should soon dissipate. He paused, eyes narrowing slightly. And yet, I have the unsettling feeling that something has gone awry. Could it have something to do with the others? After a brief hesitation, the 9 wheels merged into one. In a streak of dark green light, he shot off into the distance. Beneath an unremarkable bush, a gleaming black flag was embedded in the soil. A half-foot-wide hole had opened beneath it, within which lay an inch-tall black-green nascent soul unconscious. Black chi roiled around its tiny form as it silently absorbed the pure devilish chi emanating from the flag, slowly mending its wounds. Elsewhere on the plains, a beautiful woman with purple hair had trapped several thousand gold-devouring beetles using an ancient jade treasure. She casually blocked an attack from a lightning bead, then pierced through the foreign cultivator's body with a single strike. Yet the corpse shimmered with silver light, revealing the true form of a charming woman before dispersing into specks of starlight. The purple-haired woman stood frozen in shock. Nam. 4 hours later, the elegant man, the purple-haired woman, and the endless sky saintess reconvened. After exchanging accounts of what had transpired, they looked at one another in silence, dread hanging heavy in the air. The elegant man frowned deeply and said in a low voice, "So not only did we fail to obtain the method for nurturing the gold-devouring beetles, but we also lost the holy cauldron and the holy beast's incarnation." The purple-haired woman grimaced. "The holy cauldron itself is not irreplaceable. We have another means of summoning the holy beast. What troubles me is the capture of the holy beast's incarnation. That will surely provoke its wrath in the upper realms. We must reclaim it." "We were careless," the saintess said calmly, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "I never anticipated that this person would possess a method capable of restraining the holy cauldron. That small, strange cauldron he used is not to be underestimated." She paused, eyes cold. "I suspect it is the divine spirit treasure upon which our holy cauldron was modeled. There is no other explanation." "A divine spirit treasure?" the purple-haired woman said doubtfully. "That seems unlikely. Such treasures should not exist in this world. The holy cauldron's refinement method was obtained by our ancestor through a secret communion with the holy beast. How could a divine spirit treasure remain in the mortal realm?" The elegant man shook his head. "That may not be so certain. Elder devils have appeared in our world, so it is not impossible that a few divine spirit treasures have remained as, well." At the mention of the elder devil, both women's expressions shifted. The purple-haired woman snorted. "It was said to be terrifying, yet we never had the chance to face it. Still, its movement techniques were truly marvelous. It crossed the plains and entered Great Jin with ease." The elegant man sighed wryly. "That was only because it was gravely injured. Had it encountered us, we would have pursued it relentlessly, giving it no chance to recover." Otherwise, it could have plunged the entire plains into chaos. A shadow crossed the saintess's face. Regardless of whether that cauldron is truly a divine spirit treasure, that man killed many of our immortals and seized the holy beast. This cannot be allowed to stand. Since the holy cauldron was taken from me, I will personally travel to Great Jin to recover both it and the holy beast's incarnation. Otherwise, we will have no answers when the holy beast is summoned again. The other two exchanged glances, silently communicating. At last, the elegant man nodded. If the saintess insists, then make the journey. However, the cultivator sects of Great Jin are deeply prejudiced against our soaring tribe immortals. Conceal your identity. Great Jin harbors many with unfathomable abilities. First, investigate the Yin sifting sect and confirm whether that man truly is one of its elders. Once his identity is clear, return immediately. We will support you with our full strength. I understand, the saintess replied solemnly. Given his abilities, I will not act rashly. With that, the three departed. After settling her affairs, the Endless Sky Saintess set out alone toward Great Jin in search of Han Li. Liao province of Great Jin was one of the empire's 108 provinces. Divided into 10 prefectures, much of it lay buried beneath endless snowfields where few dared to dwell. Even its more prosperous regions bore a certain desolate poverty. The Mystic River, the province's second-largest waterway, was one of the rare rivers that did not freeze during flood season. As a result, merchants and travelers alike favored it over treacherous roads. Imperial patrol vessels regularly sailed its length, yet the river remained crowded with ships. Where commerce flowed, so too did bandits, and many larger vessels hired skilled martial artists as guards. Wang Tieqiang was one such guard. True to his name, he possessed some skill with the spear, though it was his 20 years of experience that truly set him apart. Once a hot-blooded youth, he had long since become a seasoned figure of the Jianghu. At that moment, he stood steadily at the ship's bow, one hand resting on the railing as his calm gaze swept across the waters ahead. This journey was an unremarkable one, save for the rumor that the ship's owner was a trusted confidant of an influential official. Even so, few bandits would dare provoke such a vessel, lightly guarded or not. Indeed, throughout the entire voyage, not a single incident had occurred. As his thoughts wandered, Wang Tieqiang recalled the generous payment he had received. The silver would buy his wife fine cloth for several new outfits. A smile crept onto his face as the image of his 7-year-old son rose in his mind. Suddenly, a woman's panicked voice rang out. Quick, come look. There's a massive block of ice ahead. There's someone frozen inside. When Wang Tieqiang heard this, he froze for a moment. The voice sounded very much like that of the maid Huang Ying. Yet the notion itself was deeply unsettling. Floating ice during flood season was strange enough, let alone on such a warm day. Instinctively, he glanced up at the sky. The sun blazed high overhead, its heat oppressive even through his thin garments, and sweat threatened to bead on his brow. Someone inside the ice. Despite decades spent wandering the Jianghu, this was the first time he had ever encountered such a thing. His hand reached behind his back, gripping the 2 short iron spears he carried at all times. With measured, silent steps, he made his way toward the source of the commotion. At the side of the ship, 7 men and women had gathered, maid servants, and boatmen alike crowding together as they pointed and whispered toward the river. Following their gazes, Wang Tieqiang looked some 15 meters ahead. Floating upon the surface of the river was a dazzling white object. Narrowing his eyes, he saw clearly that it was a crystalline block of ice, and within it, the unmistakable silhouette of a person. His brows rose in surprise as he muttered under his breath, How strange. Could someone have fallen into the river and been frozen inside the ice? Footsteps sounded behind him, followed by a hoarse voice. "Brother Wang, what's going on?" "Brother Gao, you're here," Wang Tieqiang replied without turning. He had already recognized the speaker, his longtime partner, Gao Dafeng. The man had cultivated a body-hardening technique for many years and was well known for his powerful fists. The large bearded man strode up beside him and clicked his tongue in amazement. So there really is someone inside. How rare. Wang Tieqiang gave a cold chuckle. Dead or alive, it's only a corpse. No matter how odd the circumstances, there's little worth discussing. Gao Dafeng stroked his beard and laughed. True enough. At the very least, the corpse isn't here to rob us. At that moment, a middle-aged man dressed in Confucian robes approached, his expression dark as he scolded the servants. "What's all this noise? Don't you know the mistress has just gone to sleep?" This man was Master Zhou, the very person rumored to be the trusted confidant of a high-ranking government official. Wang Tieqiang and Gao Dafeng were currently employed to guard the official's family under his authority. "My master in the river." The young maid Huang Ying timidly raised her hand and pointed downstream. Master Zhou's gaze flicked past Wang Tieqiang and Gao Dafeng, following the girl's finger. When he saw the block of ice with a person trapped inside, a strange look crossed his face. He frowned slightly before saying, "It's merely a dead man. There's no need to look any further. Return to your duties. Or do you want me to summon Steward Wang?" The last words were delivered sharply. At the mention of Steward Wang, the servants' faces immediately changed. They scattered at once, and even the three boatmen discreetly withdrew. Wang Tieqiang exchanged a glance with Gao Dafeng, and the two prepared to leave as well. It was clearly unwise to linger. Yet after taking a few steps, Gao Dafeng suddenly stiffened, staring back at the river. How is this possible?" he shouted in alarm. "That person is still alive." Both Wang Tieqiang and Master Zhou were startled and turned back toward the ice. The block floated silently, giving no outward sign of movement. Master Zhou shot the big man a sharp glare, but Gao Dafeng stood his ground. "I'm not mistaken. I clearly saw his eyes move." "Brother Gao wouldn't speak nonsense," Wang Tieqiang said firmly, absolute trust in his voice. "If he says the man is alive, then he must be." Master Zhou hesitated, doubt flickering in his eyes. After a moment, he shook his head. "Alive or dead, it has nothing to do with us. There's no need to invite trouble onto the boat, especially not for the mistress and her daughter. Other ships have ignored it, so we should do the same." Hearing this, Wang Tieqiang felt neither anger nor resentment. The situation was indeed strange, but that alone gave him no desire to bring the man aboard. After years in the Jianghu, he had learned that such oddities were often more dangerous than ordinary bandits. Still, a trace of hesitation crept onto Gao Dafeng's face. "Master Zhou, please wait." A sweet, clear voice rang out from across the deck. "Saving a life outweighs any mountain," the voice continued gently, "and my mother has always been compassionate. Since this person is still alive, why shouldn't we save him?" A young woman in finely embroidered robes approached her steps, light and composed. Behind her followed Huang Ying, head lowered. It was obvious she had reported the matter to her young mistress. Master Zhou immediately bowed respectfully. "Young miss, this may not be wise. Bringing a stranger aboard. What is unwise about it?" The young woman interrupted softly, her expression calm yet resolute. "He has survived a great calamity and encountered us. It would reflect our family's virtue to save him. We even have an empty room. With so many people present, is there truly anything to fear from a dying man?" Her tone was gentle, but her determination was unmistakable. After a brief pause, Master Joe could only sigh and bow again. Very well. Since the young miss has given the order, I will send men to rescue him. The young woman smiled faintly before turning and leaving with her maid. Master Joe frowned as he glanced toward the ship's hold, then let out a wry smile. You've heard her. Since the man must be saved and he's trapped inside such a large block of ice, I'll have to trouble the two of you to handle it. No trouble at all, Gao Dafeng replied casually. We've nothing else to do, and we've the strength to break him free. Wang Tieqiang studied the massive block of ice for a moment, then slowly nodded in agreement. After an unknown stretch of darkness, Han Li awoke to a splitting headache. Before he could even open his eyes, a young woman's anxious voice reached his ears. Old scholar, when will he wake up? It's already been 2 days. Has nothing happened to him at all? The young miss is waiting for my reply. A snort answered her, followed by an elderly man's gruff voice. What would a servant girl like you know? I have only a rudimentary grasp of medicine. How could I predict when he'll awaken? Still, this man's condition is truly strange. His complexion is pale, and he shows clear signs of severe blood and qi loss. Yet his meridians and blood vessels are far stronger than those of ordinary men. I can't make sense of it. The woman giggled teasingly. Perhaps the old scholar simply misread his pulse. Nonsense, the old man retorted indignantly. Have I ever been wrong when treating your illnesses? Most likely he's afflicted by some rare ailment I've never encountered. I'm no great physician, being baffled is only natural. Listening quietly, Han Li realized he was lying on a remarkably comfortable bed. A smooth blanket covered him, and beneath him was a thick, soft mattress. Hearing the familiar language of Great Jin eased his heart somewhat. It seemed that mortals had rescued him, and that he was safely within Great Jin's borders. Even so, his condition was anything but optimistic. The moment he awoke, he sent his spiritual sense deep into his body. Instantly his heart turned cold. After escaping the endless sky saintess and putting thousands of kilometers between them, the Solok seal had reactivated. He had fallen into the river and used the feigning death technique taught by monarch soul divergence, sealing himself within ice and drifting downstream to evade the soaring tribe's pursuit. Now, however, his body was in the worst state imaginable. Repeated use of blood shadow evasion had drained an enormous amount of blood essence, leaving him severely weakened. Worse still, the massive loss of true essence had caused his cultivation to plummet violently, falling all the way back to the qi condensation stage. Under such conditions, even with perfect recovery, he would need 5 to 6 years just to regain his former cultivation. Han Li let out a gloomy sigh inwardly. Then, recalling something, he examined the flying swords within his body. To his relief, he found Silvermoon's primal soul gravely weakened, yet intact and unconscious. What troubled him far more was the absence of his second nascent soul. Though he could not sense its precise location, an exceedingly faint connection still remained, confirming that it had survived far beyond his expectations. If he failed to recall it within a certain time, it would not only become independent, but might even attempt to usurp him. The sole consolation was that once he restored his original cultivation, the second nascent soul would pose no threat. Retrieving it then would be simple. With that thought, Han Li spoke through his spiritual sense to the bamboo container at his side. Senior, how long was I unconscious after arriving in Great Jin? Are there any cultivators nearby? Oh, you're finally awake, Monarch Soul Divergence replied lazily. You've been drifting in the river for an entire year. Once your magic power ran dry, the ice block simply floated along the current. But I must say, youngster Han, your situation is far from favorable. Han Li smiled faintly. How could I not know? Still surviving at all can be considered escaping a great calamity. There's little to complain about. Few could have escaped from several late nascent soul cultivators under those circumstances. Monarch Soul Divergent snorted. You're surprisingly carefree. But tell me, why did you never mention your divine spirit treasure to me? No wonder you left me outside during your seclusion. I've long wished to examine one personally. Enough excuses. Once you can retrieve that cauldron, hand it over to me for a proper look. Of course, I have no objections to Senior examining the Heaven Void Cauldron once I recover, Han Li replied calmly. Good Monarch Soul Divergent said with an easy, satisfied tone. Since you've agreed, that settles the matter. As for nearby cultivators, there is only one aboard this ship, a girl at the third layer of chi condensation. You needn't pay her much attention. Third layer of chi condensation. Han Li felt a flicker of surprise. He then slowly opened his eyes. At the side of the bed stood a girl no more than 15 years old. The moment she saw Han Li awaken, her eyes widened and she exclaimed joyfully, Yi! Old scholar, he's awake. She was quite adorable with bright, lively eyes and fair, delicate skin. Yes, I can see that clearly, came a gentle reply. Seated beside her was an elderly man in grey robes around 60 years of age. His features were kindly and his gaze calm as he examined Han Li with quiet composure. Old scholar, look after him for now. I'll go inform the young miss. Before Han Li could even speak, the girl rattled off her words and dashed out of the room in a flurry. Han Li was momentarily taken aback, but the old man merely chuckled and shook his head. Turning back to Han Li, he smiled warmly. I hope you won't take offense at the girl's temperament. Han Li returned the smile and slowly sat up. I wouldn't dare. Were you the ones who saved me? Where exactly is this place? We are aboard a ship on the Mystic River, the old man replied. While your life hung in the balance within the river, our clan's second young miss ordered that you be rescued. As for me, my name is He Wen. I am a scholar employed by the clan's mistress. Han Li cupped his fists in gratitude. So that's how it was. My surname is Han. I must thank your young miss for saving my life. With a curious glint in his eyes, scholar, he asked gently, our young miss is indeed compassionate. Still, whether she will meet you remains uncertain. May I ask, Mr. Han, how did you come to be sealed within a block of ice and yet remain alive? I confess my curiosity is piqued. Han Li hesitated briefly before replying, I do not wish to deceive you, sir. But it is inconvenient for me to speak of it. That's quite all right, scholar, he said kindly, waving a hand. Everyone carries their own burdens. At that moment, the girl returned, practically bouncing as she spoke. Scholar, the young miss says this gentleman should rest for the time being. She'll decide the rest later. As she spoke, her eyes lingered curiously on Han Li. Seeing this, Han Li smiled at her. The girl flushed slightly and lowered her head, thinking to herself, he's rather ordinary, not nearly as impressive as the young miss's past acquaintances. Why is the young miss treating him with such care? Since this is the young miss's decision, Sir Han, you should rest, scholar, he said as he rose to his feet. I'll take my leave. Han Li expressed his thanks once more. Soon both the old man and the girl departed, leaving him alone. Han Li stared quietly at the ceiling for a while before letting out a soft sigh. Over the next 2 days, no one disturbed him aside from a maid delivering 3 meals each day. This suited Han Li perfectly. It allowed him ample time to consume medicinal pills and meditate in peace. As for the chi condensation cultivator Monarch Soul Divergence had mentioned, Han Li discreetly examined her with his spiritual sense. She was beautiful, gentle in demeanor, and indeed the second young miss who had ordered his rescue. She had clearly already discerned his identity as a cultivator. Through idle chatter among the servants, Han Li gradually pieced together the situation aboard the ship. The passengers belonged to the clan of a military officer surnamed Cao from Liao province. He had been urgently mobilized to replace his predecessor, and his clan was following behind at a slower pace. The household was small, his primary wife, 2 concubines, and 3 children. The second young miss was born to the primary wife. Sickly in childhood, she had been fostered elsewhere and had only recently returned to the clan. The other 2 children were born of concubines. The eldest daughter had already married into another family, while the sole son was the youngest, only 12 years old. Noteworthy figures aboard the ship included scholar Master Zhou and an icy-eyed steward Wang who oversaw the servants. There were also 2 guards, Wang Tieqiang and Gao Dafeng. When Han Li paid closer attention, he sensed a robust circulation of true qi within steward Wang, far deeper than the superficial martial skills of the 2 guards. Finding this somewhat curious, Han Li withdrew his spiritual sense after grasping the general situation and refocused his attention on cultivation. 2 days later, the second young miss sent a maid to invite Han Li to meet her. Naturally, he did not refuse and was led to one of the ship's larger rooms. After dismissing the others, the young woman smiled gently at him. "Brother Han must also be a cultivator of a Taoist sect," she said politely. "My name is Cao Mengrong, a disciple of the profound Jade sect. May I ask which sect Brother Han belongs to?" Her assumption was reasonable. She had sensed neither devilish Qi Buddhist radiance, nor the austere aura of Confucian cultivation. "The profound Jade sect." Han Li frowned slightly. The name was unfamiliar, though that was hardly surprising. Great Jin housed countless minor sects. Seeing his hesitation, Cao Mengrong smiled. "My sect is small and obscure, confined to Liao province. It's only natural that Brother Han has never heard of it." "Fellow Taoist Cao is too modest," Han Li replied, cupping his fists. "I am merely an unaffiliated cultivator. I have only recently entered Great Jin's cultivation world and am unfamiliar with its sects. I fear I've embarrassed myself." "So Brother Han has only recently returned to society," Cao Mengrong said with a bright smile. "I too left my apprenticeship not long ago. Though my sect is small, Brother Han is so young and already possesses such profound cultivation, this truly warrants congratulations." "It's nothing remarkable," Han Li replied casually. "I merely benefited from good fortune." Seeing that he avoided elaboration, Cao Mengrong smiled knowingly and changed the subject. "Then why was Brother Han floating in the river within a block of ice? Were you perhaps attacked?" "That's largely the case," Han Li replied with a bitter laugh. "I must again thank you for saving me." Her expression turned firm. "It was a trivial matter. In truth, Brother Han would have escaped sooner or later, even without my intervention. However, such a sight would alarm ordinary mortals, so I chose to intervene. Moreover, it is only right for unaffiliated cultivators and members of small sects to aid one another." Han Li studied her quietly, a trace of surprise flickering through his eyes. He then nodded, saying nothing further. How is Brother Han's recovery?" she asked. "If you wish, you may remain aboard for a few more days. I would also appreciate some guidance in cultivation." After a brief moment of thought, Han Li replied, "I have no urgent matters at present, so staying a few more days poses no issue. As for guidance, I wouldn't dare, but we can exchange cultivation experiences." Cao Mengrong was visibly delighted. Due to her limited aptitude, she had left her apprenticeship early and lacked deeper techniques. Exchanging insights with a superior cultivator like Han Li was precisely what she had hoped for. After agreeing on a time, the two chatted briefly before Han Li took his leave. Back in his room, Monarch Soul Divergent spoke up. "Youngster Han, why did you choose to remain here? Don't you intend to find a spirit vein to restore your magic power?" "Of course I do," Han Li replied evenly. "But spirit veins in Great Jin are surely controlled by sects. Moreover, there are far more cultivators here than I expected. Acting rashly at my current cultivation would be dangerous. I have no desire to stumble blindly into death." "Oh. Then you intend to—" "I have sufficient medicinal pills and several spirit well items," Han Li said slowly. "A year will be enough to restore my foundation establishment cultivation, and still leave me time to seek a method to dissolve my baleful qi. As for the girl, she is perceptive but harmless with shallow cultivation. I can use this time to learn more about Great Jin's cultivation world before moving on. Having just arrived, I can afford to wait." "Do as you please," Monarch Soul Divergent said worriedly, "but I don't have much time left. In a few more years, it may be too late. Gathering the materials for my puppet body will take you considerable effort." "Senior, don't worry," Han Li replied. "While searching for a way to resolve my baleful qi, I will also search for the materials. Ideally, I'll gain the support of a sect that would greatly shorten the process." "A sect's support?" Monarch Soul Divergence scoffed. "This isn't Heavenly South where your name carries weight. The large sects won't bother with you, and the small ones lack the means. The materials I require are exceedingly rare in this world." "The specifics remain to be seen," Han Li said lightly. "Let's take things one step at a time. Who knows, perhaps I won't even need to search for them. They might come knocking on my door instead." With that, he ceased speaking. Retrieving a set of formation flags from his storage pouch, Han Li arranged a simple restriction around himself, swallowed a medicinal pill, and quietly settled into meditation upon the bed. That's all for today's content. See you in the next part. Support me by becoming a member. It will give me more motivation. Thank you so much.